What up, YouTube?
How's everybody doing today?
They can't answer you, JP. That's the joy of the one-sided discussion that is YouTube. Us talking to them, the audience, and they can't reply. Although I
It's
guess they
pretty.
probably can. They can write shit, right?
I mean, I'm feeling like I'm getting that age now where I don't really want to hear a lot of people, anyways. So it's a good way for us to like just put this out and be like, "Here,
Oh my
deal with
god,
this. If you
yes.
like it, it's really nice."
If
You
you can
know.
give me an echo chamber just to like blast my elderly advice and views of the world to out there
Oh,
in the world.
politics is next.
Oh my god, do I have some things to say about the American state of events? Being a
I,
Canadian,
I,
I would say anything other than the actual topic of this particular show and be pretty happy about it.
we just like we're literally trying to pick on anything to not bring up the fact that Ole is now out at Manchester United. Big
Yeah.
news that dropped yesterday, 2 days ago, yesterday.
I mean, you might as well say it dropped on Saturday, but it was official. It was official on
His
Sunday.
face had told the world that he was out, but then it was like officially he was out on Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you can't lose as many games as they have lost in the manner that they lost, and then end at Watford and lose 4-1 without it being the final straw.
Yeah,
Dun,
totally.
dun, dun.
It's really hard to see the way that they capitulated in that last game. It was
Oh yeah,
incredible.
yeah.
I
It was
mean, why don't we just start it like this? You're the fan. You tell me, was this the right time? Was it too long? And yeah, let's just start with those two questions.
um. I think unfortunately it was the right time. It. I like that they didn't react on the basis of a couple of poor performances or a couple of bad results. I think more clubs, particularly Man United at times, have given themselves more headaches long term by thinking short term. And in football, reacting to a series of results is often short term thinking. But you can only have so many opportunities. And for me, the performances weren't turning around. Um, they were looking disjointed. They weren't looking organized. It wasn't like,
It wasn't just the performances though, it was the team play overall.
well, team play for me, that is performances.
Okay.
But I've always said this, especially on the show. I mean, the players own a big chunk of the current form of Manchester United's schedule and the results. Like I understand, like Brian particularly likes to put it all on the manager. I don't think that way, but managers are the easy target. Managers are the one who are going to get left holding the bag, but also managers are the only ones who can really impact trying to turn it around. Players have to own their performances, but when this many players are not performing well, and Ole wasn't really trying to do much. He wasn't really shaking up the lineups that much. He wasn't really, benching players or trying something new or giving youth a chance or like doing any of the things that are actual tangible.
Things that he used to do too.
They're just the steps. They're the only real things a manager can do are these kind of things, and he just wasn't doing those kind of things. He was relying on the players to turn it around. I'm sure he was working very hard with the players to turn it around. But what I don't like about this whole situation is, as much as I do think it was time for Ole to go, I do think, unfortunately, he's taking the brunt of a lot of heat that I think should be kind of distributed on the players. And I'm not a guy who likes to pick on players. I just can't ignore that this group of players just started acting like they had never played soccer before. And it's not tactics anymore. It was just stupid, boneheaded things that the manager can't play the game for you. And how many results were we losing because Aaron Wan-Bissaka can't defend the back post and can't
Right.
seem to learn how to
Check his shoulder.
like just it's learn that. I know somebody's teaching you how to do it. Like let it sink in and become a better defender.
Right.
Or Harry Maguire. It's like I could have an entire show about Harry Maguire and how much I think he's responsible for Ole being fired. But yeah, do I think it was the right time? Yeah, I think it was the right time. It was too many results, too many opportunities to turn things around. I really wasn't impressed with the fact that he decided to take time off during the international break and let players take some time off. I thought that was a good opportunity to really buckle down at Carrington and work on some stuff. I think he was banking on maybe giving them a little bit of mental headspace
And then let him come back, feel refreshed, and go again.
right. And that's a bit of a gamble I think he had that didn't pay off, and it just ends up looking like he didn't do anything, which is really annoying, to be honest. So yeah, I the only thing in terms of timing, the only thing I'm a little bit worried about is if this was going to happen because of the Watford defeat, then it probably should have happened before the Watford defeat. Like, it should have happened before the international break. We should have had 2 weeks to sort out who the next manager is going to be. We should have had 2 weeks for preparation and planning and getting the players' head right for the Watford game and then for the Champions League game, which is tomorrow and Tuesday. Now it looks like, even though we gave them all these chances, it was a little bit of a quick reaction based on a Watford result. Because it was the final straw, and now we have a day and a half to get players' heads right and get ready for a critical Champions League game, which is like
with Michael Carrick in charge.
Which is, I mean, that's not the end of the world. It's just, if the board were sitting down and really had the thought that if he loses to Watford and can't get them to perform to Watford, then you've kind of already decided mentally that he's on his last straw. And then you got to ask, like, can we afford to give him one more chance against Watford? Because the results of getting fired after Watford are the shit show we're in now. So it's a little tricky.
Maybe they should have had a short list. Maybe they should have put out feelers a little bit.
Yeah, and then they might have. And they might have been showing loyalty, some sort of like sentiment of loyalty to, like, we'll give him one more chance. If he can turn things around against Watford, win a Champions League game, do well against Chelsea, and then the schedule naturally opens up to much easier teams. They've had a really rough schedule. So they might have just been clinging to that hope that he could survive a little bit longer to avoid this. But I don't know. It's a bit of a gong show.
Yeah, let's give a shout out to Bob for jumping in. Hey, Bob, thanks for watching, and the few other people throwing up some comments. Thank you guys for coming in. The next thing I want to ask you is, how do you feel overall for Ole at this time? Like, does your heart do you have sympathy for him? Do you think it was long time he should have gone? Like, how does this damage Ole's overall image to a United fan?
I have no problem continuing to have nothing but respect and good feelings towards Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I have zero animosity towards him whatsoever. I thought he was a legend as a player. He won't go down as a legend as a manager, but he certainly won't go down as even one of the worst managers we've had since Alex Ferguson. I have much harsher feelings towards Van Gaal, David Moyes, Jose Mourinho. What Ole did was really important. We were at an all-time low when Jose Mourinho was at the helm and was ultimately let go. What he did was bring back a sense of hope to the club. Like, everybody is stuck on what the last 3 or 4 weeks have been like, which is it's a game of here and now. I get that, but over the course of the time he was been at Manchester United, we've been to semifinals. We finished second. We finished in the top 4 2 years in a row. We hadn't done that before under managers with better CVs than he had. He gave players debuts. He was nothing but feel good energy when we had a period of time where everything was negative. A lot of very public dressing downs of players like Pogba and Luke Shaw. There was just so much non-Man United behavior from the manager before him that when he came in, he was nothing but class. I really like him. He was out of his depth ultimately. There's no shame in that. So for me, as a Man United fan, I still have nothing but the good feels towards that man.
Awesome. Welcome for joining us, man. Thanks for
coming.
Hey
guys, how's it going, man? Yeah, sorry, I just I was on another stream and had to get home and eat something real quick and hop on with you guys. Oh, what's going on here? You running the show here, JP? Do you want me to?
Yeah.
I'm going to shift you around. I'm going to put you top corner here because that's typically where the host is going to go. So
awesome.
And I'll let Paul get up here because I'm just going to hang out.
No worries. I guess that kind of goes over what you think the biggest positive was.
Brian likes being a bottom.
I do in this case today, yeah.
You think the biggest positive was kind of the community feel, the almost the Man U way that he kind of brought back to them at the very beginning when he came back in charge, and you guys went on that nice win streak. You think that was one of the best things he did?
Yeah, I just bringing back a general sense of managers don't do this, they do this. And just the way he talked about the club, the way he talked about his players. He had a very difficult job. He came in at a time where the team needed to get gutted a little bit. He was never really given a fully, like, his team always had very obvious holes to it that needed to get fixed, probably by multiple transfer windows. So he was always essentially treading water a little bit with the team that he had, but he never spoke publicly about it. He just didn't do the things that Jose was doing before, or Van Gaal even did, where he put it out that it's not his fault. It's the players,
or he'd scapegoat.
It's the board and all that stuff. So he comes in and he just does what we expect from a manager. He's like being a class act is essentially what it comes down to. Mm-hmm. And again, the results were on the pitch. Like, the way they started to play was night and day compared to the anti-football that Jose Mourinho had him playing. Like, Pogba looked like an exciting player again. Bruno Fernandes came into the Manchester United organization and only played under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and was a revelation. Luke Shaw managed to find his boots again, although ironically, if he had kept that form, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. Rashford was scoring more goals under Ole than he had scored under anybody else previous to that. Like, there was lots of positives. He never had a team where I was like, all right, well, this is going to be a team on paper or in reality that can challenge Manchester City or even Liverpool. So the expectations were never that high. So finishing second that one season was great. The results where they got to finals or semifinals, like it was progression. It was every year that he was in charge, there was progression. It just wasn't maybe at the rate that we would have hoped. And the decline was incredibly sharp.
Yeah. That brings in my next question is what led to the decline? Like, what do you think caused about him getting sacking? What was not right in the last few weeks? Like, it wasn't just the schedule. It wasn't injuries. It wasn't that Brian likes being bottom. Like, what was it that is the problem?
Sorry, what was the question? I got distracted by Bob's.
Bob's great comments. Oh, gosh, they're so good. What do you think led about to this decline? Was it Cristiano Ronaldo coming in? Was it the back room? Was it higher management? Well, what's the problem at United right now? Is it
probably honestly a combination of a lot of different things. I think the team he set up that had the most success, where they had one win in 20 games, had a proper number 9 and had Cavani playing in a way that everybody at United was like, oh yeah, that's what it's like when you have a proper number 9. Like, he could get the ball to feet and it would stick, and that would give time for Rashford or somebody else to join in the play. And that was a certain style of football that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was implementing for Man United, which really took advantage, I thought, of the play of Cavani and the speed of a lot of our players, and also didn't rely so heavily on Fred McTominay being able to progress the ball up the field. Bruno Fernandes was more or less the guy who could get the ball where it had to be. And then Ronaldo comes, and we don't have that number 9 anymore. We're not relying on Cavani, and the setup is just off. Like, what the things that were working before get thrown off, and it's not Ronaldo's fault. Any great manager should be able to figure out how to work with one of the best goal scorers on the planet. They just haven't found that way to do so yet. And
sorry, guys.
And it kind of goes to like, no, did Ole want him? Like, who was really thinking through the football pitch side influence of having this profile of player in this team that had been drilled to play a certain way that was not ideal for what Ronaldo does. Like, he's a legend. We all, like, I wouldn't say no to having him on the side or not, but they really threw a monkey wrench in all the progress he had been as a coach making for that squad by throwing him in the mix. And that's one factor. And the other factor is just some incredibly fucking stupid, brain dead player mistakes that, for what it's like watching a team in baseball where they have the yips and it's all down to individual like factors, like Harry Maguire brain dead for like 10 games in a row.
Oh gosh, it's so bad.
Fred has cost us games with like at least 2 mistakes that are just like, that's not coaching. Like, that's just like, you decided to do something incredibly stupid and give the game away during relatively tight games. So like, again, the players haven't helped. David De Gea has been like amazing at shot stopping until he's not. He's made like 3 or 4 costly errors this season that, like, those don't help form. So when you get all these things kind of culminating and you got a team really struggling to hit the heights that they're expected to hit, there's a certain question of the characters there as well. Like, who in that room really is like leading them at that point? Like, again, not the coaches and the man. Like, I mean, like, from a player's perspective, who is going to take charge of this team and say, this is unacceptable, we got to turn it around, and not just talk about it on Instagram, but like actually do something about it. So there's some question marks I have now about this, the group, and what characters are in that room. Like Harry Maguire, specifically. Like,
yeah,
fucking
Your captain, right? Like, that's a tough one. Your captain is making those types of errors.
yeah. And it's so ongoing, and I haven't really liked any of the platitudes he's put out. That slide everybody keeps talking about when he scored for England, where he like
Plugged his ears and whatnot.
yeah,
Did the
I'm just
thing,
like, you know what, man? Like, get a clean sheet and then do that.
yeah.
Like nobody's criticizing your goal scoring, although we should, because you don't score enough. It's your defending has been garbage. You've been costing the team with your stupid mistakes. So just focus on having 3 or 4 games before you start getting cocky like that. So it's just like this, and I mean, the last thing, if I really had to say it, that's a terrible schedule we had.
It was rough. It was very busy.
Once things started, like the wheels started falling off.
There's no time to replace them.
And it was a momentum thing, like this. It was like quicksand, like the momentum of all this poor form, these bad results, and the players probably getting their hut, like all that stuff. The fixture lift just got worse and worse and worse, and it was just poor timing. So I think all of that had an influence. And then Ole's got a huge, like, Ole owned a lot of this as well. Like, he didn't
put a lot on his shoulders.
He didn't do enough to try to get the team out of this. I didn't think.
Can I ask
he
you
was
a quick question?
Too much player loyalty. Didn't move.
Yeah,
like,
it's
pieces
to
around.
that question, Paul. Sorry to interrupt. I just was curious
You're
about the player loyalty and the decision making of who. So you bring in Van de Beek, you bring in Jadon Sancho. These players don't play. Like, why aren't they playing? Why isn't he going, you know what? I'm not getting enough out of the players that keep playing. Let's change it up.
Well,
and I found that really strange. And of course, you know, I guess when you got a system and you're like trying to fit something into a system, and those players maybe in training weren't good enough. It's hard to say. It just seems like he had opportunities to make different choices that he didn't take.
The biggest one, I'll get the first one out. Like, one of them I'll get out of the way because I think it's pretty straightforward. Jadon Sancho does play. Jadon Sancho needs to compete with other players who score goals. Like, right. Greenwood scores, Greenwood stays on. Sancho scores, Sancho has a better chance to stay on.
It's fair.
It's not talked about, but Sancho also had like a pretty bad ear infection that took him out for 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay.
So he wasn't even available. So a lot of like people have been making a lot of the selection of Sancho, not selection of Sancho.
From the outside, that's what we see, right? So
yeah,
what's going on in the club?
There have been other factors there, but also Jadon Sancho's a 21-year-old kid who came from the Borussia Dortmund and is used to the pace of that league, the Bundesliga. He is English, so people keep saying, well, he should know the English setup because he's English. And it's like, well, that's not the same as playing in the Premier League week to week. Like, there's a learning curve for a 21-year-old, so why not kind of bed him in slowly? The other issue, which is probably the greater issue and probably the more damning one, is that our midfield is not working, and we've got this Dutch kid who's been around the block.
Big one, I think, right?
Knows what he's to do, seems like he's press resistant. Did all the right things in the summer, having not played a lot last year, put on some weight, put on some muscle, has had nothing but a positive attitude. And Ole has said that he's going to give him a chance, that he's seen him in training and says all these things. And despite the fact our midfield cannot play out from the back, is not press resistant, is not all the things that Van de Beek's profile says he should be able to do, he wasn't selected. I think we're going to find out pretty soon if that was a mistake or not, because I think he's going to be getting an opportunity to show what everybody has been wondering if he was capable of. I don't know if it was right or wrong, because if he comes in and is a wonder, a revelation, then Ole's to blame.
There's some clarity there for sure.
If he comes in and he's just not that good, then, well, everybody's speculation can just go out the window. The manager who saw him in training has decided that he's not, and maybe he's not for real. But I do wonder if he was even an Ole signing.
Right.
Like, there's an assumption that he went out and got this guy, but I don't know that he did go out and get this guy. I don't know that he did go out and get
He
Ronaldo.
might have said he wanted Jack Grealish or Sancho, and they got this guy instead to begin with. Because
it just seems though with things going as wrong as they were going, that you try it anyway. It's like, I'm just
yeah.
That's what I was surprised by.
That's why I would say Ole is responsible for where he's at now, because he did have opportunities to rotate and he did try some stuff. Like when he went 3 at the back against Atalanta, that made a big difference. And if I don't say this, I'll get mad at myself. Raphael Varane's injury, plural, since he joined Man United, have really not helped us.
He hasn't played a lot, has he?
The injuries he picked up at international break playing for France have really hurt us, because when he was playing, we were looking much better at the back. And sometimes this happens, I think, where like you go in and you get like a star defender, and then maybe he's out and you have to rely on the guys that you essentially identified as being replaceable. Like they know they're not that, they know that they're not the first team plans because you went out and got somebody better than them. But now
you could look at Van Dijk for Liverpool, right? Like when he was there last season is a good example of a similar thing that happened.
Right. So because you've kind of said they're not as good as what we want as starters, therefore maybe take a hit from that. I might be reading too much into that, but frankly, Varane not being available for selection as a vast improvement to our back four, and a guy who could have maybe even helped cover some of the mistakes that Wan-Bissaka makes on the right, that hurt us as well. But again, Ole is 100%. He had his say. He had his elements to the situation. This is not all on one thing or the other. Ole is culpable for a lot of mistakes and a lot of naive decision making. Even if you look at like when he was doing well, there was always something. Like our team was very resilient, but only resilient because they got down so early, so often, that was a pattern of performance that was always there under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So that long term, I can say was that's on him. And a few other things, like his substitutions were always so late in the game, and he
Well, a little question for you on kind of speculation point. Maguire supposedly went out clubbing after the game against Watford. Do you think he lost the dressing room a little bit? Do you think some of the players no longer respected Ole? Do you think they were pretty hypercritical of his mismanagement? Did they bring this on?
Yeah. Well, first, I don't think the Harry Maguire story is true.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
And then I don't know. Like, I don't think so. I hope it's not true. It's pretty fucking. I'm already fucking annoyed with a guy, but to go out and party after a red card it's not even like, that's not even about losing the room. Like that is now you're just a shitty fucking player. Like nobody should be doing that.
Pretty solid trouble for that one.
Yeah, across the board. So I got the sense that Ole didn't lose the room, that all the players loved him.
Bruno Fernandes definitely loved him.
Yeah, I think he's a player. I think he's a player's manager. But then I also could say, you know what, you can love a guy, and that's not the same as being, I will perform for this guy, because players loved and feared Sir Alex Ferguson as an example.
Yeah,
not that everything should go back to the greatest manager of all time, but like as an example. So love is great, but love isn't necessarily going to be the things.
To fear how much you love me.
Sometimes it's carrot, and sometimes it's the stick, right? Like if they loved him, that's great. That means he had the room, but that doesn't mean that he had control of the room, because some of these guys maybe needed a different kind of approach. And I've heard I've heard that he was pretty rough. I've heard that he had no problem calling out players for poor performances. So I'm assuming that it was all love and not enough anger at times. But yeah, I got the genuine sense that they were all really disappointed in the group and in themselves for letting him down, which is sad. But at the same time, they were not turning their performances around. They were not giving that little bit extra. They did seem like they had been going on flat for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Like 3 or 4 weeks straight. Like every game felt like they were just running flat. So it's a tough one to like completely understand like what went wrong there. But yeah, in general, I don't think there was a mutiny. I don't think it was the same thing that happened with Jose Mourinho, who definitely lost the room. One of the things I was most proud of this whole situation, proud is probably not the right word, but one of the things I liked about the whole situation is when some of the United fans at Watford started to boo Ole, and Bruno Fernandes kind of like made it very clear, like, don't boo him, boo the players. Like, we're the ones responsible for this, which is great. I mean, if Ole hadn't like set him up for so much success and have such high expectations, I would love that even more. But he hasn't been playing well either, so it's tough. It's tough.
This brings in, it's kind of a two-part question. First, what is next for Ole? Do you think he takes time off? Do you think he finds a club right away, a la Dean Smith? Where do you think he should go? What type of club should he be looking at?
I don't know. I think he probably takes some time off. I wouldn't be surprised if he was up for like the head coach of Norway or some sort of international job. I think people talk about Ole and there's never enough respect because he'll get he was a farmer's coach, the Molde, the reference, the small club that he was at before and stuff. And
can I just chime in on that, Paul? Isn't that fair? Like, isn't that arguably why he didn't get to the level you needed him to get Manchester United competing for the league?
Right. But that's okay. You can say that because he wasn't good enough for one of the biggest coaching jobs on the planet. Yeah. Fine. But he also did some pretty good stuff in that role. And his CV now also includes 2.5 years at the biggest club on the planet. Like, his CV now, if you're going to hire him, is not just the stuff before Man United. It is not just how Man United.
I'm talking about at Man United more than anything.
Yeah, it is not just the time where Man United it failed, and every manager has a period where it fails because like very few managers don't get fired these days.
Yeah, nobody lasts 3 years. Anyway.
Yeah, I just think the point is, my point is the credentials he had, the lack of credentials he had going into the biggest job.
But Brian, different subject. The question is, where does he go now? My point is, people like you, not necessarily you right now, but like what you're saying is focusing on his credentials and how he got the job and how he's underqualified for the job. Separate conversation. My point is, he did those things at Man United. He accomplished things at Man United. He grew as a manager at Man United. So what you would be hiring now is not just the guy who turned a team in Molde who had never been a champion into 2-time champions. Is not the guy who took over Cardiff when they were in relegation zone and almost got them. And almost got them out of relegation zone. By the way, if he had been in charge the entire season, his win-loss race would have saved them. So he is still a manager that is worth a job, probably something mid-table.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. If that was misconstrued, if that's what it sounded like. That's
I get it. So I would say mid-table job of the Premier League one day. Not yet. Maybe like let the dust settle. I can see him
wait till the summer.
Doing some sort of international job again. I think Norway, I think he's a god there. I think he's a good enough manager that if you went there to manage certain players, like Erling Haaland, and like I just think it would be kind of cool to see what that looks like. So I don't think he's like going to be able to just like pick his next team. He's not in that situation, but I don't think he should have a problem finding work. I do question. One thing that I do question, and it's kind of part and parcel of the issue I think he had at Manchester United, his coaching staff was assembled from basically what was already at Man United or connected connected to Man United. And a lot of what I think we've all kind of been saying lately about Man United is that at times they don't look well coached.
Right.
And the
Paul, just
coaching
on
staff.
on that coaching staff, I read a story, or somebody was talking about it today on a different channel, that there's about 5 or 6 coaches that are still left over from, like, I think the previous 2 coaches, including Carrick being one of them.
Yep.
If they're not going to get rid of those coaches, they're not going to get sacked with Ole. Isn't that going to just keep the same problems ongoing, would you say?
Well, I think it's TBD until they find out who their interim manager is. So
Right.
kind of related. My point being, if you were to hire Ole Gunnar Solskjaer now, any club, say a Spanish club, you are not getting what most clubs usually get when they hire a manager, which is me and my team. Like if you hired Jose Mourinho went to Roma, him and his team went to Roma.
Yeah, Conte came into Spurs. We got like 8 new managers.
Right. Because he's got his team, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't have a team. He didn't bring in a team. Therefore, there was always going to be a disconnect like that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So Ole goes in, doesn't have a team. He's got some guys, and he loves his team. Like I think he was really happy with the guys he was working with, and maybe it was unjustified love because, again, I don't think they've been well coached lately, or they don't look like they've been well coached. So I think that maybe impacts his next career destination, because I don't think you're getting a backroom staff when you hire Ole Gunnar Solskjaer right now. And I think to get to a certain level of management, it's you and your team are the package deal, right? So I don't think he's going to be like that appealing until he works that out, and that might take a few seasons, and that might maybe international or working at smaller countries for a bit. Whereas the current situation with the coaching staff at Man United, I do think certain members of that backroom staff will stay on until the end of the year. But I would expect to see an interim manager come in, ideally, I hope, with at least 1 or 2 of their own coaching staff members who know how they like to do setups for training, who know the tactical emphasis that the squad is going to be set up for, so that they can hit the ground running a little bit faster with the players. And again, improve what I think has been pretty poor coaching to this point. And then ultimately in the summer, when we get our new manager, complete overhaul. Michael Carrick can stay because I like him. He's a god. Everybody else can go out the door. I don't give a shit.
That brings up my next question is, who is the next manager? Who are you guys being linked with? And who do you want?
So the linkage right now, Pochettino has been like maybe the hottest name associated with Man United today. I think everybody's really familiar with Pochettino in the Premier League.
Yesterday it was Brendan Rodgers. Today is Poch.
Right. The Brendan Rodgers thing.
Yeah, Poch's been that linked for a long time too.
Brendan Rodgers is 100%. I think that's a bullshit link.
Bullshit.
I think that there's no legs to that one. I can't see how it could possibly. Pochettino, I think, has been associated or attached to the Man United position for forever
since he left Spurs, basically.
Yeah, I think he knows it too. I think there's probably been some discussions at some point with
he
somebody.
had dinner with Sir Alex Ferguson, right?
Yeah, but
they hung out, they chatted.
everybody assumes Ferguson goes out for dinner for. He's trying to stitch him up for the job. I think he just likes
mutual
meeting
respect,
people.
Yeah.
So I think Pochettino is at least now got some
legs to him.
The legs are also kind of driven by this notion that he's prepared to leave PSG mid-season to go get that job.
Don't you think it'll be summer?
That's why I don't really think Pochettino is necessarily as front runner as everybody seems to think, because he's focused. Like, I don't even think you can have a conversation with right now about the summer. Like, so you won't know until the summer rolls around where he stands. And if he is
like Gary Neville love for him too, that is like Gary Neville's been dying to get Poch in.
There's a few people that are saying they want Poch.
Neville in particular has been
if
crazy.
Man U threw their weight around and said now or never Poch, do you think he goes?
I don't know.
It's Man U. I mean,
the thing is,
he's managing Neymar, Messi, and
yeah,
Mbappe
but he's fucking in the French league. Like, you literally play your C team.
That's why I say the summer. Like, he's going to manage them through this Champions League potential champion.
No, but Brian, you're cheating. You are cheating. You're cheating the question. He asked if it was now or never. What would he say?
Oh, if it was now or never. I don't think he would do it. I think he's too much of a stand-up guy that he would just say, I've got a contract here. If they still want me in the summer, I'll be available then. But right now, I've got to finish with my team. That's the kind of person who is it.
I get the sense that he's not really enamored with the board at PSG. I don't think any manager ever is.
Right.
I think there's a certain. I think
Social
they.
issues.
I honestly think they actually act like a fair amount of disrespect towards the managers there. I think he knows that. I think he's also aware that it's the Champions League or it's nothing there. Like it's not enough to win a league, but
He
even
might be
if
out
you
in
win,
the summer anyways if he doesn't.
yeah, you might be out. Even if you win the Champions League, you might be out. Like there's no job security and there's no project and there's no time at PSG. And if it was a now or never situation, I could see it being tempting. And tempting is probably the most I'd give it. Like I don't know the man well enough to know his character and how he would feel about leaving that. And he's Argentinian and he's working with Messi, so
Yeah.
I don't know. Going over to work on Ronaldo is more appealing.
There's a good question. The comments here. David Convery asks, "How would Bry feel about Poch at United?"
How would I feel? Yeah, I mean, if we didn't have Antonio Conte, I'd probably be disappointed. But because we I think we have a more successful manager currently that I would understand it. It would be disappointing because it's one of your favorite managers of all time, and he was like a father to a lot of Spurs fans for a period of time. So I would be disappointed. But I would, yeah, I know. I'd be disappointed, but it would. No, I think he's 3 years older than me actually. I would be disappointed, but I would understand it. And I think it's a good project for him. I think for United, he's the right type of manager because he's really good with players, but he's also he understands tactics and systems and knows how to get the best of the players he has. And I think the players would respond really well to his sort of training regimen and his ideas of what he wants to get out of his team. Every team he's gone to, he's made better. Even teams that have very good players within the squad, which we all know United have a really good squad. Like the players in that squad are good. So, feeling wise, there'd be a part of me that'd be a bit disappointed, but at the same time, I'd probably be happy for him.
So I'm of mixed feelings when it comes to Poch. I think he's a better option. I think he ultimately would be a better manager than Ole was. I think he's got more experience, and I think he's got more the increase to the level of coaching and patterns of play. I think you'd see would be up there. Whether or not he would be the kind of manager or the quality of manager that could compete with what is the real benchmark is like, can you beat Pep? Can you beat Klopp? Or can you replace Klopp? And Tuchel, yeah, I think for me to a lesser extent.
He's done an amazing job at Chelsea right now.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Well, let's see how that goes. So I'm a fan, but I'm not. He's not my front runner, is what I would say to the Pochettino. Zinedine Zidane has been referenced quite a bit. I personally struggle with that. I just think he did some amazing feats at Real Madrid, but it was fucking Real Madrid. I
think his English is shit too, and I think that would be problematic.
His English isn't great. There's talk that he's currently working on his English, and that when he says he's not ready to take on a Premier League team, which is what he maybe is telling the board right now, it's because he's working on his English. But I mean, Pochettino didn't speak English when he started at Southampton.
Translator. I think it's just comfort level too, right?
Yeah, but Zinedine, I think he speaks 5 other languages, so I would assume he could pick it up.
Yeah, I was going to say if you'll
learn English pretty
you're
quick.
It's going to be really quick.
Yeah,
my concern, and it's kind of a weird concern because it's like, I mean, how many the guy won 3 in a row Champions League. It's never been done before. He won
4 in total.
He won the league a couple times against Barcelona when Barcelona were really good. I just look at him and go, you know what? Like, you had such a great fucking team.
Yeah.
And I don't think teams like that exist anymore or will exist again. And that's not going to be what happens at United. Like at United, you're going to have to work with superstars, but you're also going to have to fill the holes with young kids. And
Ronaldo in that team.
And that's what that's such a short-term thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
Getting the most out of Ronaldo is the least of my thoughts about a manager coming in. If manager comes in and he and Ronaldo don't like each other, bye-bye Ronaldo. My straight. Like, I just cannot have a guy who's got a year or 2 left at United be the reason why we do anything next. Like, we can't. I'm already kind of annoyed by the board potentially throwing off our progress by bringing him in without thinking through the football implications. I'm not mad at Ronaldo. This isn't like me being pissy about him. I just the decision making has to be made for 3 years from now. Who's the manager that's going to get the most out of the realistic team we have in 3 years from now? And Ronaldo's not part of that. So Zidane for me, I just had this feeling like I would rather have somebody who's done more with less is what it comes down to. So for me, I would rather see POCH over Zidane. But
Steve Bruce does more with less.
Steve Bruce in.
No, he doesn't. No, he does not do more with us.
We're gonna have a little bit of banter on this show. Come on.
He's the legend, man.
Club legend, you know.
Yeah.
Bring him in.
So the guy I like is actually he's got a job, and I always say like make it hard. Like if you want to get somebody really good, make it.
Who is
Get somebody who doesn't really
this.
even want to go. Make it somebody you have to like pull them away, because then you're going to get somebody who's going to be loyal to whoever you are, and it's Ten Hag from Ajax. Who, like, just for some reason I can look at him and go, yeah, I believe that guy's a tactical genius. He just looks like what a tactical genius should look like, and
I think
the
POCH
fact
is a better choice than Ten Hag.
well, that's you, man. But
I
for me,
saw
I dig it.
Experience in the Premier League is huge. I think Ten Hag would be difficult for him.
Well, what I specifically like about Ten Hag is that he's winning titles in Holland with a team that was weakened. Like Ajax are a super club there, but they had just sold a bunch of players. He bedded in a lot of youngsters and has turned them into like players that can win titles. But also, what they do is replicate that form and that play in the Champions League, which is where I'm getting my real indication of what he's capable of doing as a manager. Less about the titles in Holland, more about what he's been doing with that team. Again, not as strong a team as what was 2 or 3 years ago at Ajax, how he's got them to be Champions League relevant again. But even he is a little bit like, well, let's see what he really does in Champions League this season. Like if he can take that team to a final, for example, it's an easy choice all of a sudden. Like that's going to make up my mind for me. He's the guy. As of right now, he's a guy I am watching and learning more about, and part of my brain is starting to think he's maybe more what I want.
Right.
Let's
it's more of a little bit of an unknown. Like the stuff I know about Poch also works against him a little bit.
Hold on. Let's look at some numbers. He has a 73% win rate. He has 25 draws and 25 losses in 185 games. And in 185 games, his team has scored 500 goals. Over 500 goals in 185 games. He has a 2.7 goal score per game rate. They concede roughly 0.85 per 90, which is a little higher. And Ajax has scored 42 goals in 13 games this season and only conceded 2. What numbers those are. But
those are numbers. Those are big numbers. But what's Ajax in the Dutch league?
Right.
Correct. That has to be taken into account. And I get it. Those are still good numbers. Like you can still say those are good numbers. Doesn't matter what league a team's doing that. They're dominant and they're that good. And that's why, like Paul said, they'll be competitive in the Champions League because they have a good enough side to do it and a good manager. I just think in the Premier League, I think you can, like in a tournament in the Champions League, you can win games, you can get a good draw. There's a lot of different ways of getting through a tournament. Whereas in the league, in the Premier League, when you're playing the 38 games a season against some of the lower league teams who you still might struggle against, those numbers would change dramatically. I don't think he'd be getting that out of a really good Man United side even. So there's still good numbers. Again, like I said, I actually wanted him at Spurs too as one of my top choices before Conte came in. I was like, can we get Ten Hag? Because he would be perfect.
Man, I'd want him too, but Billy could ever get him. So
he's a good manager. So yeah, I mean, it's a good shout. It's just I think Poch, just because of that Premier League experience, gets a little bit more of a choice.
I think he's unhappy.
They're both very good. They're both
the almost unfair knock against Poch is he hasn't won anything, and that's the only.
He's won a league. He's won a cup. He's won a cup at French Cup, and he's 11 points clear in the league in PSG right now. He's going to win.
But he won a French Cup with PSG, and he lost the league with PSG.
I mean, you could say the exact same for Ten Hag. He wins everything with Ajax, right? It's the same type of argument. It's a lower league. It's a league.
Well, no, I mean it's not the same. It's not the same argument because he didn't lose the league with Ajax. He won the league with Ajax. Poch lost the league with PSG and just won a cup with PSG.
He came in mid-season and lost the league. So
I know.
He's 11 points clear. He's 11 points clear. He's going to win the league.
It's truthfully not about what he did at PSG. It's always been it's like this. again, not my point of view, but the thing that you'll hear from Man United fans that are anti-Poch is that he's never won anything. So why are we considering him? Which I don't prescribe to, because again, I do think
He
he's
had
a
Ole for
viable
2.5
option.
years too, right? So, what did he win?
Okay.
No, I'm just saying as a counter to that, to those people, not to you, Paul. Just to is that the reason you're going to pick the manager? Is the manager good for the club, right? Sir Alex Ferguson was shit for the first 5 years in England, and then then kicked ass.
now.
So like those things can happen if the club system and the system is correct. And I think
the system isn't correct at United, as we've already stated. I mean, Ed Woodward is now saying, or there's rumors that he's going to extend his stay on deal and go through the
9 more
summer.
months. Apparently, he said.
Yeah. That's Paul's favorite thing he's heard all year. That's the crowning achievement.
Ed Woodward's going to stay around to solve the problem that Ed Woodward caused.
Created. Yeah, exactly.
And I have a hard time with that. And that's somebody could tell me what Ed Woodward's doing. You know, if he's there because he's picking up the phone and making sure all the investors and the sponsors and everybody's still like under the impression that there's still like a project here and that we're going to be really good in 2 years time or whatever they've sold them while selling their like advertising space. Fine. Ed Woodward, you can stay around, Ed Woodward, but stay the fuck away from any football decisions, you twat.
I guess that takes care of my next question is, do you trust him to make the next pick?
Not Ed Woodward. No.
Who would make it then, Paul?
No,
who makes the choice for the next manager?
It's a bit of a gray area. I do think there's a board. There's only so this is one of those things where like there's only so many viable options at any time for a manager. So you have a short list that probably would be the same short list as any club at a certain level or stature, minus 1 or 2 players or 1 or 2 managers that like Aston Villa's list would probably be very similar to our list. We may just have some guys who are currently employed
that you could get. Well, we
think we can maybe get that you guys probably wouldn't put on your list. So that list is probably evaluated by the board. Some of the members of the board are football experts, and I'm sure football experts are there to inform that list and narrow it down to maybe like a final 2 or a final 3. And then it becomes, well, you have to go talk to those 2 or 3 and find out where their head's at, sit down with them. There's a vetting process. Ultimately, I think the decision gets made by non-football people, but they're advised by football people. So it's not as blindfolded as maybe a lot of people think it is, but it's still like, you know what, man, like it's
you don't
repeatedly the same mistakes by the same executives. There should be no trust. They've done nothing to earn the trust. It's not even about trust. It's if I were to say I am confident in their competency, I can't say that because I've been paying attention. And even if this was a business run on actually performing, like if this was the United States and this was an NFL team, they'd be fired. And it wouldn't be a big deal. We would just fire him and get in a new GM. If it was basketball in the NBA, we'd fire the GM, bring in a new GM. You have not assembled a good team. You have not built a team.
He's failed at his job. Yeah.
But he's made United billions of dollars.
Yeah, and that's why there needs to be a distinction between we're building a team and we're building a money profit engine. And I'm one of these guys who doesn't harp on it's not about money. I don't mind that you want to make money and have a money engine. That's fine. But at least have some competency to separate the football product from that and have somebody who's in as a football director or whatever it has to be there who is going to put in a vision, and managers are just there to enact that vision. And that guy is ultimately responsible for how do transfer windows go? How does the last 2 or 3 years gone? Okay, managers get evaluated, but this guy gets evaluated as well. Or this girl gets evaluated because Chelsea's got a female. I don't want to be sexist. I hope, and I've hoped this for a while, that they have Edwin van der Sar in mind to fill that role. And we're just going through a weird filibuster period until he's ready to accept that title. Because I really think he would do a great job at it. And I think he would be across the board a solve that everybody could be happy with. And then we could really get to work with taking this team, which is a work in progress, and finally flipping the switch But that's wishful thinking. I've always been a little bit optimistic about this shit. I'm sure David Convery disagrees.
Yeah, I was going to say David Convery made a good point that he thinks the ownership makes decisions, but they do it at the advice of Darren Fletcher and Ferguson. And I think those are two very high up soccer guys that probably give them good insight. But as we know, they don't always make the great decisions with the Super League and everything that did occur. So
I don't mind going to Ferguson and
Right.
Darren Fletcher and having advice. Like, get some advice.
Those are good people to ask. I mean, why wouldn't you? Right?
Yeah, like I've heard that Ed Woodward talks to like Patrice Evra from time to time and gets some advice from Patrice Evra. That's fine. I know for sure that problems were earlier on when he first started. He was getting advice from guys that were agents. Why are you getting advice from player agents? That's terrible.
Very strange, yeah.
And
They have their own agenda.
a lot of really, like, Falcao was signed, Angel Di Maria was signed, like a lot of things that were just like, you're getting advice from guys who are selling you
Players.
like some jersey sellers. Like
that's all they wanted to do. It's because they were agents.
Right.
They wanted to make money.
right.
Yep.
And you were also buying players that your manager that you just hired, like Van Gaal, will not work with. So let the left hand talk to the right hand. It's not a hard job. It baffles me because it's just not really that hard a job, man. Get a manager that comes in that is operating towards a team vision and a team style of play. They have to work with that. They should already be comfortable working with that because you selected them to be a good fit for that. And then work them with, what do you think you need? Here's where we are at. You are joining a club that's already in motion, has plans of its own. Here are our plans. Are you okay with these? Which ones are major mistakes to you? And give Van Gaal an opportunity to say, I really don't like Angel Di Maria. Save your money.
Yeah.
And then go, well, cool. Well, we disagree. We're not going to hire you. And like, or say, cool, then we will give you who you want. But at least give yourself a situation where you can have the left hand impact the right hand somehow, or vice versa. It's a very frustrating situation, and it's not an Ole at all. Like this is
A club thing.
a club
Yeah,
thing
it's a massive club issue for sure.
Yeah.
It's been there
Yeah.
for a while.
and it's been there since the worst thing possible could happen. Alex Ferguson left at the same time as David Gill, who was the guy who was Woodward before Woodward, who would sit down with the manager routinely
Had a vision.
and talk about what does a club need, what does a squad need.
Yeah.
And that was it. They just had a really good working relationship, and he could pick up the phone and he knew who to call and people would take his call. He knew the value of flying out to meet with somebody,
Right.
meet somebody's parents. Like as soon as both those guys left at the same time, it was like start from scratch. Let the owners make major decisions about who should be running what when they didn't know anything. And like I often wonder who's even going to who's reporting to the owners about the situation. Like they're not heavily involved. That means somebody's going in and being selective about how they're reporting. And I just feel like this is like a little worm tongue thing that Woodward's been like dug himself into that room and said, "Oh, things are fine. We made so much money. We finished fifth." Like
Yeah.
it's terrible.
Totally. I think I feel like we've definitely hit the nail on many different pieces of wood. What is the Man U Stadium? Is there anything?
By the way, the stadium needs a rebuild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's pretty old. It could do with a nice facelift, and by facelift, I mean 2 new stands. Is there anything else, Paul, Brian, that you guys think you're going to pull in there besides?
I just be curious, like, what do you think is going to happen? I know we've talked about sort of this to some extent, but like you're about to go into the Christmas period. You've got there's a shit ton of games coming for everybody, thick and fast, the whole standard sort of cliche stuff. Does Carrick have enough to get you through that period? Do you think you're going to bring somebody else interim before that period starts? Is Carrick on the bench for the next? Like you guys got Chelsea at the weekend, right?
Well,
Big
today's
games right coming up.
today's-
You got Champions League this week as well.
today's Monday night. We have Villarreal tomorrow on Tuesday. Michael Carrick will be in charge of that.
It's a Tuesday game, right?
So
okay.
already we're playing a game, and then we do have Chelsea on the weekend.
Ooh.
I would expect it is tough. I would expect Villarreal. I think we're gonna win. I just think we should.
Is that at home? That game it is, right?
I think it's away actually.
Is it?
But Villarreal's form is not that great, and I just think we should be able to take them. I said the same thing about Watford, so fuck, we'll find
New
out.
new manager bounce, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if
caretaker bounce.
if this group of the players doesn't look each other in the eye and say we just cost the guy we all like a job, we got to fucking do better, then like fire them all. I don't give a shit. Like perform. I don't. It's not even about winning. Just fucking show me that you fucking care.
It's similar to what Spurs were going through, man. It's a very similar scenario. Like the performance levels just dropped to just tanked, and when you have that, you're just kind of watching your team going, "Come on!"
It's such a momentum thing.
Fucking effort. You know?
It is such a weird. I mean, that's sport, right? Like once a momentum, like the negative begets negative.
You need 3
negative.
wins in a row or 3 losses in a row, and you're screwed.
And it can turn around so fast, just as well.
Happened to Villa too, right?
Like Arsenal had a really poor run of fixtures and were getting demolished, and then they were eking out results.
Draws
just
on
like
1 win.
Even just 1-0s and stuff they were getting. But
but then the for whatever reason the shoe dropped and the things just started clicking over, and now they're unrecognizable to the team that they were when they were in bad form.
They played a team that was like an actual good team at the weekend. Spanked, but
they were never.
About that in the next one.
We'll talk about that tomorrow. Yeah.
I'm not saying they're title contenders, but I am saying they are far better. Even that loss, the 3-0 loss to Liverpool, they're still a far better team than they were when they were in the weeds of negativity. So I'm hoping. Unfortunately, sometimes this happens. You fire somebody and heads start to shake out of the fog of whatever was causing them to play like shit, and they come out a little bit more motivated. I legitimately don't know what a caretaker manager situation looks like at this point for the rest of the season. I cannot see.
It's almost too early to have a caretaker
There's
manager.
so few available too, right? There's just not like quality managers available.
Unless Michael Carrick comes in and he seems to be the only guy who seems to like make changes that maybe Ole was saying no to, and it was as simple as Fred and McTominay are not working anymore. We need to get
McFred gotta go.
Guys in the middle, not Fred. You need him.
No, I said McFred.
Yeah, McFred's got to. I mean, that's what it always comes down to. Is like we haven't even tried different midfield options.
Combos, right? Yeah.
So if he can come in and like do simple things like that and start to get results, they maybe don't rush somebody more permanently. But I don't like the way this team has been coached, and that's essentially keeping the same coaching staff, but just making somebody bottom line responsible for the final decisions.
A different person to throw under the bus when it goes wrong again, right? And
I just can't see that being the thing that can get us back to good results. And honestly, if we get back to good results and the players start to perform again, and all it was we're going to fire this guy that you all like, I'm going to be so fucking mad at these players. Like, even if they go on a 20-game unbeaten run under Carrick and it's basically the same shit that Ole was doing, but all of a sudden they're not like playing like Maguire has the past 10 games, I will fucking hate them so much for letting them down like that. So the question mark is who comes in then? Who would be a suitable temporary manager for the rest of the year who you hope can coach well, implement some tactics, work with this group of players, get the most out of them, but be okay with the job is not yours at the end of the season. And I have no idea who that looks like. There aren't even really names being.
That's what I was asking, because I'm like, who's available? Like, who could you get to come in that situation? I mean, Nuno's available. You know, you could get
Nuno, Steve Bruce.
But you have to like, it's such the market for managers, especially with all the managers that got sacked.
It's wild.
Like just such a wild season. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But
that's my biggest point of interest is, where in the world can you get somebody who is quality that it's okay with this is until the end of the season? And that's why you almost have to start thinking outside the box. Like I said,
isn't that what happened with Ole in the first place? Was he was brought in temporarily and then he did well enough that
but when Jose was gone, nobody even thought about Ole. But then when they hired Ole, everybody was like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. He's a former manager. He has coaching experience. He was in charge of the Man United under-21 setup as well. Like there was parallels, but nobody's gone on to do anything of note or become a head coach or manager.
John Terry.
No, no. So it's a really big question mark, but. And again, this is like a total outside shot, and I kind of think it would be hilarious. But there are like managers like Arsene Wenger who are unemployed, who do know how to manage, who do know how to take over a team, and probably are okay with it just being a temporary solution.
Doesn't he work for FIFA?
Yeah, screw that though.
I mean, I'm sure he would leave if he wanted to. No, I'm
that
not
would
saying
be
he shouldn't.
that would be incredible.
That
Straight up
I
incredible.
just think that it would be so interesting to see the story of Ferguson and Wenger's like rivalry, which has emerged as a friendship of mutual respect. They both put each other on pedestals when they talk about each other now, and these guys hated each other for so long. For him to come in and essentially act as like I don't want to say savior, but like if you're going to tell us it's a movie, he would come in as a savior and help turn things
Fergie
around.
Rings him up and invites him over for
Man,
dinner,
that would be incredible.
you see Arsene Wenger in the dugout. That would be an incredible story for sure.
It would be just really fucking funny at the end of the day.
It would be
I hope it works out, but I don't know. But a lot of people have talked about Ferguson himself. And I really hope I would hate to see Alex Ferguson come back. And it's not because I don't love him. I love him. I don't want somebody who's done that much and given so much, who is of a certain age and a certain health, to have to deal with any of this shit.
Yeah.
Stress himself to death, probably, right?
Yeah. Like I don't care about his reputation or legacy. He can come back and manage and lose every game. His legacy is cement. I don't give a shit. I just don't want him to have to be in a position where he feels like he has to come
and save you guys.
And do anything. Like fucking go to games to watch them and enjoy yourself and get stressed as a fan if that's what you choose to do. But unless you're like coming in because you really, really want to and it's going to fill a void in your life, I just rather him like live his life and drink his wine and read his books and
chill
out.
Well, guys, we're hitting on about an hour now, so thank you for everybody coming into the comment section. Paul, I'm just going to leave you with this little bit, man. Welcome to the unknown, because me and Brian have just recently embarked on the new journeys that we have. And I don't know about Brian, but for me, it was really sad to lose Dean Smith, but it kind of gave like a freshness to the club. It was like, what's happening next? And
I'm buzzing,
I loved it. It's a crazy time. So, you know, Paul, keep your head in there. I mean, even if you do hate the amount of slack I give you, stay strong, dude.
Yeah, it's yours.
Guys, I keep saying this. I got so many titles and Champions League finals in my lifetime that I ride these moments out with a certain sense of, well, you can't always be on tap, man. Like it's not
God, good. Keep saying that in 10 years when you're
you know what? We're still gonna take the piss. This is why we take the piss, because you say
beer,
shit like that. So.
Banter, football.
Yeah, when we get a chance to banter, you're gonna get it, buddy. That's it.
Sorry, I was just daydreaming about the time Ole scored in the Champions League and we won it.
Long time ago.
I got a good memory.
Yeah.
I just started crying this weekend, so you know it's cool.
Good times, guys. Good times.
Awesome, guys. Wow.
We'll be back tomorrow night, right? Are we doing a? We're gonna
try to,
regular show as usual. So much
Yep.
great. Oh my God! Did every team in the Premier League forget how to defend this weekend?
No,
crazy amount of
we'll
goals,
remember it,
right?
actually.
2, 3,
It was
3
great.
games, and we'll look good. Yeah, tune in for that. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Crazy.
To chat about.
Aston Villa
Good
looked
as
good
well.
too.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll talk
So
about
there's no end music, so we're just gonna say. End.
What do you mean there's no end music? Of course there's end music.
Oh no, you're here. Yeah, I
Oh,
forgot.
yeah, you're here.
You don't.
Tell me you did that.
Is the best.
That is the best.
Tell me more
Paul,
about how much
bring us out
technical
of here,
control
dude.
you have.
Paul,
Tell me
bring us
more,
out.
Brian.
That is
That
so
was
weird.
the best.
No, I know. It's like the timing of that was insane. But it's weird when I click on brand. I'm gonna try it again. If it crashes, just go down to the brand section and play the video. You just do it now, Paul. It's simple. Click on brand, scroll down, you see the video, hit play, and we'll say goodbye to people. That's it. That's all you got to do.
You mean the files are in the computer?
They are saved on.
This is the North End.